Hi, everyone. Welcome to CGI Women in Tech Career Lab. Today, we're going to be talking about building and elevating your personal brand. So before we get started, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. So I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on here today. As we are meeting today on this virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. From all across the country, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. With that in mind, I invite everyone to join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how each of us, in our own way, try to move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thank you. So let's get started. I want to just start off with a few housekeeping items. Today and tomorrow, CGI is bringing our Women in Tech Career Lab. So today and tomorrow, we're collaborating, sharing ideas, and hopefully sharing our insights with the audience. There's lots of time to register for further sessions today and tomorrow. We're also joined today by a fantastic group of moderators who will be with us all to assist, to answer questions, to share your questions over. And so I just want to give a good shout out to our moderators today. We welcome questions during the presentation, so you can ask questions throughout the presentation, but we are going to also dedicate the last 10 minutes for a Q&A. So let's get started. If we could go to the next slide, please. So my name is Yvonne Hale. I've been in talent acquisition for a little over 15 years. I currently am a talent acquisition manager at CGI, been here just over 3 years, and my team and I support a number of different business units on all their, and partnering with them on their different recruitment and talent initiatives. Today, I am happy to introduce Sheila Mason. She'll be joining us as well. So Sheila, over to you.
Thanks, Yvonne, and hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you today. I'm Sheila Mason, and I am based in Ottawa. As Vice President, Alliance Management in Canada, I have a team that supports key strategic alliance partners as well as the supporting partner ecosystem. I also lead the Microsoft and NetApp partnership relationships in Canada. A little about me personally. I am married about 26 years. I have 2 adult daughters. They're both in software development. And I have an old cat that I try to keep off our very brand new furniture that just got delivered last week. It's wonderful to meet you all.
I feel I left it out now. So I have a dog, and my dog is 2.5, and her name is Sprout. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will be able to definitely see a picture of my dog. And I've also been married for 15 years. And but yeah, thanks for the shout out for the pet, because I can't believe I forgot my dog. So today, if we could go to the next slide. We have a full agenda today. We're going to be talking about a little bit about social media, really how to get noticed, a few pro tips and tricks, and then really delve into that networking and how to be authentic in that networking piece. So if we go to the next slide, social media. So social media itself, think of it as a digital playground. It's where you reach people on a global scale. You can share everything from those like morning snapshots. So I happen to be guilty of that. I tend to speak a lot with pictures of myself holding my coffee mug in the morning with how I'm feeling for that day. But think of it as like that modern day town square where you can really share, learn, and really collaborate with people on a local, national, and global level. If we go to the next slide, please. So what I really wanted to concentrate on LinkedIn, the reason for LinkedIn, it's partly personal. I'm on LinkedIn every day. I'm focusing on that because for me, LinkedIn is more than just a place to scroll through like job listings. It can really be a goldmine for opportunities and to really help, hone your skills, to gather that like industry insight, to network, and also at a global scale. And so one of the questions for you, Sheila, is like, do you use LinkedIn? And if you do, why do you use it? What's your main reason for using LinkedIn?
Absolutely. I use LinkedIn all the time. My reason for using LinkedIn changes over time, but most recently, and by that I mean in the last few years, I have been most interested in using LinkedIn for thought leadership around alliance management. So I'm looking to learn, what others are doing well. I want to be part of conversations that are happening on alliance topics. And I'm also looking for awareness of any events that come up or that are coming up, to come together as alliance professionals. So I do all this so that I can do my job better. Now, when the time, when the opportunity arises, I also go to LinkedIn to recruit. So I'm like, okay, who are the people I want on my team? So, but that's not an everyday thing. So, anyways, those are my main reasons right now.
Yeah, so that's how our like I go on to LinkedIn every day to recruit, and
Yeah.
so to really to connect and make those connections globally with people, and for the different like positions that we have at CGI, and I know that's what my team does as well. But it's nice to get that different perspective because we all have our different reasons for joining LinkedIn, and so that's one of the reasons I chose LinkedIn. But anything that we're learning here can be applied to whichever platform you choose. So whether you're using like Facebook or like X or even TikTok, you can probably find something in here that will be applicable to helping build that personal brand of yours. So if we go to the next slide. So first and foremost, when we're building an online presence, be active. And so what does be active mean? Share things consistently, do posts, log in every day, optimize your profile, creating that quality content, network and collaborate. You want to be consistent with your posting. So what I do, I tend to post every day at 8 o'clock. LinkedIn has a really cool feature where you can schedule posts in. So sometimes if I'm having a lazy Sunday, I will sit there and I'll be like, what do I want to talk about next week? And I'll schedule a bunch of posts in. That way I'm not like stressing out every day going, I wonder what I have to post. You can do different things as well. You can, run polls, you can cross promote content. So there's a number of different ways to be active and present on social media. And so if we go to the next slide. So getting noticed. So what does getting noticed mean? Online can often be overwhelming. It's busy. Like, what does it mean? And so think of it as like a digital stage. And Sheila might laugh when I say this, but like a digital stage, and all those likes and those shares and those comments are like your applause. So instead of thinking of it like overwhelming, just think this is your digital stage and this is what you're going to be presenting. So the next slide is I did this in a funny way just to sort of get people's attention. And so the first thing people see when they look at LinkedIn profile typically is the profile picture. And so here I just wanted to sort of highlight the differences and what's recommended and not recommended. And I'm sure my fellow marketing and TA partners are happy I used their picture. You want your profile picture to be clear and concise. You want it framed nicely. You don't want it to be busy with a lot going on in the background. It is, you want to convey that professional sense. And it is that first impression that you make when you're talking, when people are reaching out to you. And so it also includes, you want to make it recognizable so people will know who you are. And so that's,
sorry, can I just add a comment here? Because make sure your photo is recent, because there's nothing more shocking or embarrassing than meeting someone for the first time and you're like, oh my God, you do not look like that on LinkedIn. And you have to stop yourself from saying something totally offensive, like, well, you're a lot older.
Sheila.
Updated.
Oh my goodness. No, but again, exactly that. You want to keep things current and relevant and that. So I usually change my profile picture up every few months, to be honest, or I'll change it according to the season, right? I might put something, maybe a little more festive at Christmas or a little more heart oriented, at Valentine's Day. But you want to make it yourself, but you also want to make it professional and have it framed nicely. But you, and again, you want to showcase your personality, but in that professional way. And again, focus on your facial expression too. You want to be like inviting. You don't want to be like scary or anything like that. And so it creates visibility and recognition. It creates that credibility. You don't need to have a professional photographer. I think everybody either has a smartphone or knows someone with a smartphone. Just take a picture. Just make sure it's a nice clean background. We look at the profile heading. I use my own, a little self-promotion, not going to lie. I do get a lot of comments on my heading. You want your heading to showcase your personality, but also include what you do. So if you look at mine, yes, I'm in talent acquisition. I put synergist, and I get a lot of comments on that. See, people ask me, what do you mean by synergist? It creates actually a lot of conversation. For me, that means, as being in recruitment, I want to find the synergies between people, the synergy between a role and a person, and create that. So I labeled myself a synergist. Sometimes I'm a collaborator. Sometimes I remove it completely. I play around with it. And then I put unicorn whisperer. That maybe lets my personality, I can be a little quirky sometimes. And that allows a little bit of my own personality to come through. And I also make a disclaimer. I do use personal and work-related content. I use both. And so I do put a disclaimer on my profile that all opinions are expressed are my own. And so I do that because when I'm posting for CGI, it's very CGI-related content. As you can see, my background on here is CGI. I'm saying I work at CGI. I have the CGI logo, but I make a very clear delineation between that. When I'm posting about my dog, or when I'm posting about something more personal that I attended, I make sure that I'm using my own photos, my own hashtags, and my own information. And if we can go to the next slide. So now that we know that, the headline grabs you, and that that profile, that picture grabs you, you want to have a summary. And so with the summary, I really like this person's summary because it captured what they're interested in and what they love. They breathe recruitment, and I just love that. And they also shared something I wouldn't do, but they shared their contact information because they really want to reach out to a lot of people. I tend to keep my contact information a little tighter, but for this person, they live and breathe recruitment, and they want to reach out to people and make those connections. So she's giving you that way to do that. And she's also including what she's interested in and really sharing that story of what she's interested in. So that one always really captured me on what she was creating with her summary. And again, she's showcasing herself. And so if we go to the next slide, I'm just going to touch on this really quickly just for time reasons. But within LinkedIn, you can review analytics, you can create a personalized URL, and you can share, give kudos to people, endorse people. If you want the additional tips, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm happy to walk people through how to use LinkedIn. And you can always go on LinkedIn yourself and just look in the help button. It walks you through really easily. One of the things I personally like for my own personal experience, I do use a personalized URL that has my full name. It makes me more searchable. It's easy to recognize. It's easy for people to remember. And so that's one of the reasons I use that. And I also, when I'm posting, I also use different hashtags as well. And so if we go to the next slide. So here is where we're going to start getting into the meat of things in defining our brand and what our brand is. And so when I look at our brand, I think one of the things, because I feel like I've been talking a lot. So Sheila, one of the questions I have for you for social media often becomes a numbers game. And I'm full disclosure, I am a numbers oriented person when it comes to my social media. And I like seeing posts like I have 20,000 followers and I have this many followers. But from a business perspective and from the reason why you are on LinkedIn and the reason that can you maybe share with us, what would be your advice for people trying to develop their personal brand in an authentic way?
Sure. I'm going to share my view, and I'm just going to caveat this with this is my view. So
I know what your view is.
I'm just going to start by saying, because I shared this with Yvonne earlier, I actually tend not to connect with people who have, I'll just say, like over 10,000 connections or followers, unless they're like a personality or a speaker or a recruiter. But if they're, a student or just a regular person like me with a job, I'm like, how do you have 10,000 plus connections? Because for me, LinkedIn it's not YouTube, it's not TikTok, where the number of followers is a reflection of your worth. I have been on LinkedIn for 20 years. So I started in 2004. I did get the email just a couple of weeks ago. And I have just over 2,000. And I just kind of share that because the reason I have 2,000 and not 10,000 is because I care about who is in my network. And because I care, I prune it once in a while. I'll go through, I'll be like, hey, who is that person? I have not heard from that person ever. And I remove them. And it's not to be mean or anything like that, but to me, they're not adding value to my network. They're not a real connection. So I guess to answer your question, Yvonne, to develop your personal brand in an authentic way, I would recommend checking in once in a while on who is in your network, and know that it's okay to refresh that network, because your value proposition to your network changes throughout your career. You're going to be on there for like 30, 40 years, right? So if you do keep your network more of a reflection of why you're on LinkedIn, then you know that when you engage with your network, they're going to respond, or at minimum, you'll know that you're adding value to your network.
And I love that perspective because it's completely opposite to my perspective.
Yeah.
So I have, full disclosure, 26,000 something connections. No, I do not know them all personally. Have I engaged with them? Yes, probably I've engaged with them at some point, because people tend to reach out with an email or something to engage. But I also think it depends on your reason for using LinkedIn. For being in talent acquisition and recruitment, our objective is to make lots of connections, build lots of relationships. Now, maybe our relationships may not run as deep as some of the relationships you have with your tighter connections. But again, we're building those connections. We're sharing jobs across nationally. So we need to, make those connections. So I think that would be a little bit of the difference. So it can be a numbers game for some. But I mean, it's certainly not, I personally don't measure my success on the number of followers I have, but I use the followers I have to share information. So for me, that's invaluable for sharing information. Because sometimes when I look at the analytics of a post I made, it may have reached 20,000 people, whereas me on my own, maybe I wouldn't have reached that. So I think that's where it differs. But it's nice to get your perspective on that. And I'm glad I made the cut, because I'm still on your LinkedIn.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's really just about being intentional. Like, what are you doing on LinkedIn? And your network is very much part of that. So make sure your network reflects why you're on LinkedIn. Yeah. So your purpose is very different from mine, right?
Yeah. We did have a question here. And I'll take this one because it's a recruiting question. Any tips for reaching out to any recruiter, any LinkedIn hack? So there's no LinkedIn hack for reaching out to a LinkedIn recruiter. In my opinion, there's no hack. One of the tips I have, and I was actually going to mention this later, but we can mention it now. LinkedIn has a wonderful AI feature that allows people to write emails for reach out. Please, if you're using the AI feature, incorporate your personality into that. And you don't need to send, and I'll give you a real life example from me. Every day, I probably get at least 20 to 25 reach out emails that are this long, that if it was a book, it would be pages of people writing me the story their whole story about why I should connect with them. To be fully transparent, I don't read them. I feel you're making me feel very honest, Sheila, in your with your thing. So I don't read them. When if you want to reach out to me as a recruiter, say first of all, say my name, like get the person's name right. I think Sheila, you had that when we were chatting earlier. To have make sure you're using the person's name, but have and reach out, tell me what you're interested in, say that, oh, I went to the CGI website and I saw this role. Let me know that you've done a little bit of a background and you're not just reaching out, which I get more times than not with, here's my resume, find me a job. If you do that, I probably won't be able to, because that's not my full-time job. My full-time job is facilitating hires and reaching out. But, as a job seeker, you have to take ownership of your own job search as well. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Sheila. I know it's more of a recruiting.
Yeah, but I had the exact same experience, and it shocks me that someone would send me their resume and say, hey, let me know if there's any job openings. Like, I'm not your personal recruiter. I have a day job. So yeah, don't do that. Just that's the tip. Do your homework.
Then do your homework a bit. And I guess I take this one last question before we move on. But what weightage is given to LinkedIn profile and how active we are there compared to our resume? Do recruiters cross-check our resume and LinkedIn profile? I will say I do. Maybe not all recruiters do, but I do. Do you look as well, Sheila?
I do, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And again, sometimes, honestly, I just like to see, so sometimes the LinkedIn has a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but it verifies information sometimes. I do look for, when I'm recruiting, I do look for consistency across. So if you're sending me your resume, which often will include your LinkedIn profile link that's included on your resume, I will cross-reference to both. So yes. Okay, and one more, resume versus LinkedIn profile. What function and value does each provide in a job search? I mean, both. I mean, use resume and LinkedIn profile. When I'm looking for a job or my team is looking for a job, we will often get applicants who send us their resume. We have a database where we look for people's resume, and then we also go on to LinkedIn and we look for people that way. So I think having a strong LinkedIn profile as well as a strong resume are two good tools to use when you're job searching. Okay, next. So the next couple of slides, it's going to touch on a lot of the same stuff, but I did want to make them separate. First of all, your personal brand it's about you. It's celebrating you, who you are, what you share, how others see you, and then that ultimately builds your reputation. So when you think of things, think of things you can post, your proudest moment, your successes, your failures, and all of that. Quick question that came in. Would you suggest using the open for work on your picture? Yes. I know there's some stuff going around where it's like, don't put open to work on. If you are looking for a job and you are a job seeker, there is nothing wrong with you putting an open to work banner around your profile picture, just as like there's nothing wrong with me putting a I'm hiring profile frame around my picture. I personally have no issue with that, and I would recommend that. And it also is searchable as well. So if I'm searching for someone on LinkedIn and I want to know maybe like who might be looking for work right now, it is a searchable feature on LinkedIn that I can look at who has open to work. Sheila, maybe for you, if someone is interested in multiple job roles, how should they approach a talent recruiter, or is it not ethical to look for multiple roles? I don't know if.
Oh, well, I would say absolutely. Look, apply for multiple roles, but you would have, first of all, I would say apply through the portal, right? So that's how you would do it. Yeah, I wouldn't suggest approaching a talent acquisition person directly. I don't know how you feel about that, but Yvonne, but like the the recruiter will reach out to you, right? If you have a compelling profile, but yeah, so
Yeah, and sometimes people have transferable skills. You might be interested in, I don't know, there might be a business analyst role that translates into something else, or maybe there's a PM role where there's different roles that will translate into your skill set may be relevant for multiple roles. And so I think as long as you meet the skill set that is in the job description and the position resonates with you, or it's a position that you're interested in getting into, there's nothing wrong with applying. There's nothing wrong with applying. I'm going to get back to the questions after. I'm just going to finish up here. So with personal brand, if we go to the next, if we go here, I just had a question for Sheila. When starting your profile and people don't know where to start, what would be your piece of advice for someone just sort of stepping into it?
Starting your profile, just make sure you have a solid profile in terms of your work history. I think that's kind of where the credibility is. But in terms of engaging, if you don't know where to start and you're a little shy, like it's just so easy to click the little thumb. It's like, if you like something, just click the little thumb, and as you get more comfortable, add a comment. And if you want to take the more advanced step, repost something you think is really cool and add a comment there. And I think you're good. Like you can coast on that for a while. So if you're new to LinkedIn, that's a great way to get started.
No, that's good. Thank you. And then if we go to the next slide, so just with the objectives, so you want to showcase your skills. You can create opportunities that way. You can build connections. You can achieve different goals. So there's lots of things you can do, excuse me, within LinkedIn. And also here, the objectives of your personal brand, you get a clear identity. It builds your reputation. It allows you to have that broader scope and that global reach. And so in terms of that, there's still lots of questions coming in. So it says here, what do you look at LinkedIn profile first? Experience on how active the user, which has a higher priority than most. I'm not sure I understand that question. When I do look at LinkedIn first, I don't look at how many active followers that person has. I look at the content of their profile. I'm not sure if I answered that question, but if whoever wrote that question, if you can just rephrase it, I'm not quite sure. And for sending a request, do you think adding a note is necessary? I like to get a note. I like to know why that you want to connect with me. So I personally prefer a note. And any tips to starting a conversation, like hello, how are you? How is your day going? Always works well for me. And I don't know if Sheila, if you have any other sort of tips. If someone here, I'll throw something out at you that we haven't sort of talked. If someone with 11,000 followers reaches out to you in an email, what would be a good way for them to make you reply?
So interesting you said email, because I feel like I have zero responsibility in responding to an email that I did not solicit. Like and I get a lot of them, but I feel like if they reach out to me on LinkedIn, it's fair because I'm on LinkedIn. So yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so on LinkedIn, and say someone reaches out to you on LinkedIn, sends you a message on LinkedIn. What would be, and they have 11,000 followers. What would make you want to connect with them?
Well, usually what a really warm connection would be, hey, we have a mutual interest in either this area in alliances, or we both worked at this place, or we both, have these contacts in common, and basically finding common ground. I find that's a really great way to connect and give me something to land on and some context for, a follow-up reply.
Perfect. And then if we can go to the next, so now that we go to the next slide, please. So now that we kind of know what platform we're using and how to sort of grab people's attention and what, defining what our brand is, what the heck do we post, right? How do we start with that content and different ideas for that content? And, there's a number of different things for content. You want to be really authentic. You want to be human. I like adopting myself a conversational tone. So I'll often use language such as you and we. If I'm referring to CGI, I'll put we or I so the reader knows what I mean. You can, share your expertise in your field. You can share tips. You can, if you're not sure what to create, you can share things of interest. So if you read like a cool case study or a success story, or you saw a really neat article that you found insightful, you can share that information, and then slowly you can start building on things. If you got a really great review or you wanted to give someone like a kudos or a shout out, you can do that. All of that will slowly allow you to create that content and consistent. I know what I did recently. I started doing a tip Tuesday. So every Tuesday I do a tip. I use the same image and I do, whether it's a personal tip, a professional tip. It's not CGI content, it's my own. And I actually got a little bit of a following. I didn't do it this week because I was preparing for this. But I had people reaching out going, oh, we love your Tip Tuesday. And I thought it was just something just to allow me to post consistently. And the next few slides, I'm just going to go through really quick. It's just different to maybe to inspire you. Share your participation. What events did you take part in? You can share your articles. Sheila may have been involved in that one. You share your articles, share your appreciation for someone, share your achievements, and share your motivation. I'll leave it here for a minute. Sometimes, again, I don't know what to post. And so I might see something, I might see like whether it's a meme or a quote. And sometimes I find that inspiring and I'll talk around that. And sometimes you can share that if you're looking for ways to kind of get going. And then the next slide, just quickly, if we go to the next slide, just a quick capture of do's and don'ts. If it feels like I might be going through this a bit fast, don't worry. The presentation is being recorded, so you can look at all the do's and don'ts, when you receive the presentation. But again, make your profile professional, make your content. I would do quality over quantity. If you have something to say, say it. Don't worry about, posting something insignificant every day. Find what you want to post in and have that quality. That's what people are looking for. Keep your profile updated, as Sheila said. So we know Sheila wants the updated picture. So up, and also too, what you've been doing, right? What have you been, where have you been working? Where have you been volunteering? What have you been taking part in? What events have you taken part in? And really highlight those accomplishments. So that being said, so it's over to Sheila now. And so we are going to go into the fun, fascinating world of networking.
Yes,
Sheila, over to you.
Word networking. And I'm just going to invite everybody, just in a chat, just to enter like, what feeling does that invoke for you when you hear networking? Because I can share that for myself. It's never been a good, positive one because traditionally for me, having been around for more than 20 years, networking has meant going to some event, putting on a decent outfit, packing up your business cards, picking up a glass of wine as you enter and just introducing yourself over and over again, wondering how to leave the event. So I know it's just never been something that really sat well with me. However, I have grown over the years. As I gain more confidence and experience, I find I have more to talk about. So it's certainly something that I've been working on. And so I'm really happy here to just kind of share some thoughts on that. So if we move to the next slide, we'll see how, networking has evolved. So even though the in-person events still exist, we have the additional option now of really networking, truly networking online, and LinkedIn, of course, is the platform of choice for professionals. But there are some things that don't change, right? So with networking, and the one I really want to focus on is how to make networking better than that transactional networking that typically first comes to mind. So networking, for it to be a positive experience, my recommendation is, focus on the other person. So it's not about you. It's not about how great your intro is or how cool your profile is on LinkedIn. It's about initiating a relationship and having something to offer. So it doesn't really matter if if you're a CEO or if you're a new grad. If you focus on the other person, you actively listen, you will find something that you can offer that is of value to that person. And if there really isn't, then you move on. So what can you offer? Well, some ideas might be, you can offer your perspectives that can encourage the other person. You might know people in your network that should be in their network, and you can offer an introduction. You can ask questions that will help them refine their message. Maybe you've read some articles recently that would be helpful for them that you can share. And maybe you even have time that you can offer to brainstorm ideas with them. So these are examples of things of giving to the other person that are of value. And so I would focus more on that as opposed to the transactional, what can I get out of networking? So that would be my tip. That would make a better networking experience. And also think about networking as a long-term activity that you engage in and build over time. It's not a one-time thing. All right, so let's move on. So now that we understand what networking is. Okay, so the other part of networking is really, again, earlier I mentioned about being intentional, but understand why you're networking. So as you've heard already, Yvonne and I network for very different reasons because we have very different jobs. So in my role, I network to build my company's brand as an alliance partner by posting about, partner recognition or awards that we win, or sharing photos of interesting partner events that we attend. That's why I network, to promote that. I also network to learn from other strategic alliance professionals by attending online webinars, engaging in virtual mentoring. I follow newsletters that are published by thought leaders that I respect and admire. I also network to recruit, but like in stealth mode, not the same way that Yvonne does. So it's usually long before you'll see a job opening. I'm looking for, as I mentioned earlier, who do I want on my team, because I know
I'm on to you now, Sheila. I am on to you now.
So I will basically, I'm going to reach out to people and I'll ask for recommendations. Hey, I'm looking for this kind of person. Do you have ideas on strong candidates? Or I might test out someone's interest in potentially a role, without exactly laying it all out. So those are some of the reasons why I network. And so, Yvonne, I know you have different reasons.
Yeah, and I'm going to be mindful of time. So one of my main reason, obviously, is to get access to that diverse talent pool for my job, for my career. It's in talent acquisition, so it's making those connections, reaching out. And then personally, it's for me to stay relevant, to keep up to date on my own skills, to see what's going on in the market, to see what candidates are experiencing, and then to share that across with my team and the team at large and the businesses that we support. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, what I do.
So now that you understand why, we'll move to the next slide, which is, okay, who are you going to engage now that you understand what you're trying to do? And so I just want to leave this thought. You can look at all the bubbles on the page, but Scotiabank has this really great tagline. I'm sure you've seen it. It's, you're richer than you think. I think that when it comes to networking, your network is more powerful than you think. And what I mean by that is it's beyond your first level connections. When you think about your second and third level, and you'll see those labels on LinkedIn, it can be very powerful. So I'm going to share a quick little story that happened last year as an example of this. Not last year, last week. So last week, I was at a partner event. I was speaking on a panel. And very, very uniquely, I had the opportunity to invite my daughter too. As I mentioned, she's an adult. So she brought her friend. And so her friend is a friend from high school. So they've been together through high school, to university, through their first few years of working. And as I was just kind of catching up with her friend, hey, how's it going? She shared that she's looking to change organizations, like doing the same thing she's doing, but doing it somewhere else. And I'm like, well, I happen to have just met that entire team here from the partner organization. And so I was able to introduce her. And so I'm not naming anyone for privacy reasons, but the point is that after that introduction, she did follow up, and when I shared back, what happened with the person who invited me to the event, he offered, hey, that's great. If there's anything that I can do to help with the process, here's my contact, have her reach out to me. So it's a very quick and easy networking that happened, from this person's perspective. It was her high school friend's mother, I don't know, 10 years down the road, who is really helping to move that forward. And I just share that as a recent example that's top of mind for me. But it just kind of goes to show it's not always who you're working with. It can be your personal friends, it can be your relatives, your friends of relatives, right? So just be curious, get to know different people, and understand that people's roles change over time. So maybe your colleague that you're working with right now, or that you tend to grab a coffee with once in a while, they may become the hiring manager 10 years down the road when they leave your organization and go somewhere else. So it's important to manage those relationships, to build them, to nurture them. It is a small world, and your network, not only is it bigger than you think, it's also always evolving. So those are the thoughts I would leave you with.
Yeah, I loved that story when you told it to me the other day, because it really shows just the power, right? The power of networking, and how it's not always, sometimes it just happens organically, right? It just sort of happens that way, which is kind of beautiful. Been told that we're running really short on time. So if we can go to the next couple of slides, and then we'll be able to take some questions from the audience.
Yep.
And yeah, perfect.
This one's really quick because Yvonne's already touched on how you engage. So all I would add to that is, use your own voice. So if you're going to repost, add a comment or two from yourself before you repost. As discussed earlier, if you're going to message someone, just keep the basic etiquette in place, like say hello, use the person's right name, say thank you. Like, we're still all humans, right? So it's all about human connections. And the last slide is really about tips. We've seen this kind of networking not happen very well. I've had the opportunity to remove offending comments on my posts, and so A, know that you can do that, and B, don't do that. And Yvonne, I know you've got some examples as well, and
yeah, and the same. So again, with posting, I try to, even within my team, like, I want things to be, if we're posting within CGI, I want things to be on brand. I want people to use the right images. I want the message to be conveyed. But if you're reaching out to me, like if you're doing a reach out to me, and just how Sheila said, make sure to do different things. She's removed requests. I've actually had to block people. We do have the right to do that as well. Typically I try not to. I try to have conversation, but sometimes it's with that. But then again, just reaching out to the team and showing. And so when I'm working with my team, reaching out to them, letting them know what we can share and how to really engage the audience, and to act responsibly, right? We are representing not only ourselves and our personal brand, but we're often representing the company that we work for.
But don't let that stop you from posting, because there's always an edit. Even after you post, you can edit something like, oh, I shouldn't have.
100%.
Right? So
you can delete it, you can edit it, you can remove it. Yeah.
It's what I've heard Amazon called the two-way door. It's like something you can do, and then so
click of a button.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to our Q&A period. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We'd love to take your questions. But as we do, we have an ask of you, which is to think about the one action you're going to take after today's call that you're going to do to build and elevate your personal brand. And then we're going to ask you to share that in the chat as well, so that you have an opportunity to inspire everybody else. So with that, let's take a look at some of these questions.
Okay, so this one here, Sheila. What is one piece of advice for aspiring female leaders that are building their brand? And what's one piece of advice you would give to aspiring female leaders that are building their brand and want to create a space of female leadership connection?
So the advice I would start with is find like-minded people. So there is no shortage of that, but through networking you'll find more and more. So you'll find the individuals, you'll find the groups, you'll find the forums and the events, and I would actively engage and connect into that, and then just start engaging, comment, like, share, and I would say that's a great way to start building your brand along the lines of female leadership.
Great. I'll take the next question. It's, would you recommend LinkedIn Premium for job seekers? Does it help applicants stand out with recruiters? No. You can have a regular, normal, unpaid LinkedIn subscription or LinkedIn user, and we will still find you. We will find you on it. You can still apply to jobs on LinkedIn. You can still create engaging profiles. You can still share content. You can still do reach outs. So no, I wouldn't say that a premium account gives a person an edge over the job market. If you're looking for a job and applying to a job, you can reach out. Are there any other questions? Wait, I think we had that one.
I'm scanning at the actions and I love reading them. Thank you for sharing them in the chat.
I think maybe, how do you evaluate your connections on LinkedIn, and how do you decide who to add? We already know how Sheila feels on this.
Yeah, let me
So did you want to just reiterate that? Like, how do you evaluate your connections?
I'll tell you exactly what I do. I get a LinkedIn request. I like the ones that are more than just that LinkedIn request, like the ones that add a little message, not just, oh, I'd love to be a part of your network, but I heard you speak today. This part really resonated with me. Would love to stay connected. Like that to me is very inviting. Something personal like that, or as I mentioned earlier, you know, we share the same, I don't know, same interest areas in my case alliances, or maybe Microsoft, or we know the same people. So though something personal, I think, is a great way to connect with someone on LinkedIn. Give them a reason to say yes, basically. That's what I would say.
Perfect. Are there any other questions from the, how to stand out with over 100 or 1,000 applicants for a particular position on LinkedIn? So I think as a job seeker, I think especially when you're applying via LinkedIn, it will often tell you how many people have applied to the position, and sometimes it can be a little daunting, seeing so many people have applied. I'm going to give a shout out to my team. We have a fantastic group of recruiters. We're trained, first of all, trained to go through all of those applicants and to really understand the resumes and to read the resumes and to get a sense of the applicants. And we do have like an ATS that we use as well that, you know, does keyword searches and helps pull the information. But again, to stand out, I know sometimes it can be a bit daunting, but I would say make sure that your resume reflects the job that you're applying for. Make sure that you read the job description. If the job description is asking for Java experience or development experience, please make sure Java and development experience is in your resume. We often get a lot of applicants who don't have any of the people, just apply to everything and hope something will stick. So I would say just take your time to review the job description and apply to things that resonate with you, but also that you can reflect in your resume that show the skill. And I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I do. As a hiring manager, how do you stand out? You're in my network already. So networking is, as I mentioned, it's a long-term play. I don't know if that's the right word, but build your network and build it over time. And that's how you become top of mind, because there are so many people out there, and I'll just tell you my own behavior, which is, I think, similar to many others. Like, who do I know that would be great for this job? And you talk to people and you reach out to people. Yes, there's the formal recruitment as well, but who you know, I know everyone's heard this, but that I would say is the way to go. And to be on the who do you know list, network.
I think that's really some great advice. So really quick, we're already at the end. I know it went super quick. I know I could probably talk to you for forever on this topic and others. There's going to be a link, a QR code when we end this presentation to register for the other sessions. I'd like to thank all of the participants, all the audience, all the moderators, everybody helping. First and foremost, Sheila, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And again, sign up for those registrations. And I want to just thank everybody for coming. And we really appreciate it. And have a nice day.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.